Y'all, y'all ready for this? Yeah. Uh-huh. Uh. Yeah. Uh-huh. Uh. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Do you ever feel like life is just a little too noisy? Like you're sometimes so distracted you can barely think? What makes your life seem noisy sometimes? We're constantly bombarded by information, notifications, reminders, responsibilities. It's a lot to deal with on a normal day. But it's even worse when we're trying to make a big decision or get some guidance. Between the advice of our friends or our family, the stuff we find on the internet, and whatever our gut is telling us to do, it's not easy to know whose advice to listen to. We all have moments in our life when we find ourselves asking questions like, what do I do now? Who do I trust? Which voice is the right voice to follow? Last week, we started talking about famous kings in scripture. So far, we've talked just a little bit about King David and then his son Absalom, whose confidence that he thought he knew best led him towards destruction. Well, today, I want to introduce you to another person. Unlike Absalom, this guy really did become king after David. And when he did, he taught us a few really important things about who we should be listening to. The transition of the crown from David to Solomon, well, it kind of happened naturally, uneventfully. David died, and when he died, Solomon took the throne. After hearing the stories of David and Absalom, you might be wondering, what horrible thing did Solomon do next? Well, let's talk about that. If you look in 1 Kings 3 through 14, Solomon began his reign by following God closely. He placed the good of God's people above his personal peace, prosperity, or desire to be a powerful or popular king. And as far as God was concerned, Solomon's priorities, they were in the right place. One night, Solomon had a dream where God asked him, "What do you want?" So Solomon asked for unlimited ice cream. I'm just kidding. He asked for wisdom. We don't know exactly why this was Solomon's request, but maybe it's because he really wanted to lead his kingdom well. Maybe he didn't want to go down the same path David and Absalom had by using his power to hurt others or become proud. God gave Solomon wisdom, but God didn't stop there. Scripture says Solomon received the ability to pass fair judgment, which is really important when you're leading people. You need to be fair when you're ruling a kingdom. Solomon could have listened to anyone. He could have hired 1,000,000 people to help him make decisions, or hired no one at all and just trusted his gut. But instead, Solomon asked God for wisdom, a wisdom that's more trustworthy than anything a person could give. Well, maybe you're wondering, what exactly is wisdom? Well, think of it this way. If knowledge is a collection of all the information in the world, then wisdom is what you have when you actually use that knowledge. Wisdom is knowledge plus action. Solomon may have received wisdom in a pretty spectacular way, but here is the good news for you and me. We don't have to wait until we become king or have a mysterious dream in order to have a moment like this with God. Here's what the book of James said. Now, if any of you lacks wisdom, he should ask God, who gives to all generously and ungrudgingly, and it will be given to him. So wait, what do you mean? All we need to do is ask? We don't really need to do anything special? We don't have to make big promises, make a deal with God? We can just ask? Yeah, it really is that simple. You don't have to be wearing a crown or ruling a kingdom to get access to God's wisdom. No matter what our problem is, and no matter who we are, when we're not sure who to listen to, we can ask God for wisdom. Just like Solomon found himself with a lot of responsibility and too many voices giving him advice, you and I also have a lot of voices telling us what to do, telling us what to think, what to believe, or what to attempt. And so with so many potential people we could be listening to, we even need to ask God for wisdom about which voices we should listen to. So how did Solomon figure out who to listen to? And how can you and I do the same? Well, here's 3 ways. First off, recognize you need God's help. Remember, this is where Absalom went wrong. Don't be like Absalom. Be like Solomon, who was quick to recognize that he had a lot to learn. When Solomon became king, he knew he didn't have experience yet. He didn't even have his dad, the previous king, to help him figure out what to do next. He needed help, and he knew it. Like Solomon, you and I still have a lot to learn too. We don't know everything there is to know about the world or how it works. We barely even understand ourselves. We need a guide, a voice that will lead us down safe paths and guide us back when we make a wrong turn. But that's exactly why God is there to help us. And all throughout the Bible, over and over again, God promises to help us. We just have to ask. It brings me to my second point. Ask for what you need, not for what you want. Solomon could have asked for riches, fame, more power, anything he wanted. God didn't give him any rules. But what did he ask for? Wisdom. Solomon chose to focus on what he really needed. When you and I are making decisions, we sometimes make the mistake of looking for the quickest solution to get us whatever we want in the moment. But oftentimes, the things we think we want are not the wisest choice for us. Sometimes the things we think we even want, they actually rob us of what we really need. And lastly, the third point is remember who you are matters more than what you have. When given the chance, Solomon asked God for something that would grow his character, not his bank account. That's because Solomon understood who he was as a king would be far more important than what he had as a king. The voices around us usually tell us the opposite of this truth, right? They tell us that what we have or own is way more important than who we are, even if they don't say it outright. It's still communicated. But we need God's help. We need his wisdom to help us see the difference between focusing on something we want, maybe like money, popularity, opportunity, stuff, or what we actually truly need. So as we wrap things up today, let's take a moment to think about who we're listening to. I don't know if any of you will ever become leaders of entire nations, but I do believe that you have the potential to do big things for God. But to accomplish them, you're going to need God's wisdom. So start asking and start listening, because when we're not sure who to listen to, we can ask God for wisdom. And that's our big idea for the day. When you're not sure who to listen to, ask God for wisdom.